You're listening to
Catholic Sprouts,
the daily podcast for Catholic kids that strives to plant seeds of faith. Hey there, Sprouts. Today is Tuesday, August 28th, 2018. It is also the feast day of St. Augustine. This week on the Catholic Sprouts podcast, we are talking about prayer. Yesterday, we talked about what prayer actually is. And the easiest way to describe prayer is simply being in the presence of God. But I think it's important today, on the feast of St. Augustine, that we talk about why we need to pray. Why do we even need to do this? Why is it so important? Well, St. Augustine, this great sinner turned great saint, has a simple sentence that helps us understand why we need to pray every single day. St. Augustine said, "We are restless until we rest in you, O God." We are restless until we rest in you, O God. Do you know what it feels like to be restless? Have you ever been lying in bed, tired, but you just can't sleep? You just can't keep your legs still. It's exhausting and it's miserable. St. Augustine tells us that we are restless until we rest in God because we are God's creation. God created us to be just like Him. He created us to act like Him. And you know how God acts? God's primary way of acting is through love. And the only way that we can really be the way that God created us to be is to be connected to Him. The only comfort that we will find in this world is in God. So we need to come into His presence every single day and come into His presence in a real way. Simply saying a little prayer before we eat each meal, well, we might not even really remember what we're doing or really even realize that God is there in that moment. No, what we need to be living the way that God really created us to live is to genuinely come into God's presence and to try very hard to listen to what He has to say to us in the silence. Here's another way to think about it. So as people, we have bodies, but we also have a soul. We believe that when we die, we'll leave our body here on earth, but our soul will fly up to heaven with God. Now, we take care of our bodies, don't we? We make sure that we have enough to eat. We make sure that we get enough rest. We make sure that we have warm enough clothes when we go outside. But we're not called to only take care of our body. We are called to take care of our souls in as careful a way as we take care of our bodies. And while we eat food to keep our bodies strong, we need to pray to keep our soul strong. If we don't pray, it's almost like we're starving our soul. Because as St. Augustine said, we're restless until we rest in God. Another way to think about it is that God alone has the food that our soul needs. And if we're going to take good care of ourselves, we need to be praying every single day. And so, Sprouts, here is your challenge today. Sometimes it is difficult to know how to pray. Sometimes we even feel a little awkward when we sit down to pray. But it's okay. God doesn't care. He's just happy that we're there. So today, if you have just 1 minute to pray, I want you to pray this prayer. God, teach me to pray. God, teach me to pray. And God is listening. Even if it doesn't quite feel like He's there in that moment with you, trust that He is. And trust that once you make this prayer and really mean it, God will help you pray. That's it for Catholic Sprouts today. We'll be back tomorrow, but until then, continue to grow in your faith and truly sprout into the beautiful creation that God intended you to be. Just one more thing, Sprouts. If you would like to continue to learn about your amazing Catholic faith at home or in school, I encourage you to download and use a set of free Catholic coloring pages. There's one for each letter of the alphabet, and you'll find them at DoSmallThingsWithLove /coloring.